Hello, good evening. Gary Gedall, psychologist, psychotherapist here in Lausanne, on Switzerland, my little terrace here. It is Thursday, the 26th, is it? Yes, Thursday, 26th of June. And we're coming towards the end of the 70-day challenge, entering into the last week for those of you that are actually doing something there. If not, next time you should join me and do a 70-day challenge. So tonight I'm going to be talking about jealousy and admiration, which is quite an interesting subject to be talking about. As far as my day is concerned, it's Thursday. We had our morning meeting, business meeting at work. Wasn't a lot of people there, but we sorted that. Then I saw quite a few patients today. Had some good news that our trainee is going to be able to be employed in Switzerland. A trainee psychologist needs to be accepted for a school of psychotherapy before they can be employed as a psychotherapist in training. The two things go together, and we got some very good news that our trainee has been accepted for a school and she can start working for us and start her the journey towards being a psychotherapist. Congratulations. So jealousy versus admiration. It's what I term that as is either positive jealousy or negative jealousy. Negative jealousy is what most people call jealousy, which is that you either fear that someone's going to steal something from you, take from you what you want, or you're angry that they've got something that you haven't and you basically want to steal it off them or destroy it, which is particularly destructive and doesn't bring anything to anybody, but except maybe a little bit of satisfaction that if I don't have it, you can't have it either. So that's a negative jealousy. One thing that I want to mention, and for me, it's important that I can mention this, is that I'm often very critical of a lot of the attitudes in America and the ways they do things, lack of a global health service, that employment, you're not safe, you don't have your weeks of vacation, because if you take too much vacation, you can get sacked at any point. I think a lot of negative things that I'm critical of America about, but there is one thing that the Americans have that most other people in the world don't have. It's an admiration for success. It's something that it's part of the way that they're educated, they're trained. They're trained in the attitude that you can succeed if you try hard enough. You have what they call the American dream. And that American dream is very much anchored in the concept of keeping up with the Joneses. Now, I think most of you understand that, but if you don't understand that, the concept is that the Joneses are your neighbors. And if your neighbors have something that you would like, they get a new car, a new washing machine, new television, or something like that, and you see they've got something that's better than yours, and then the idea is that you work harder, you invest more, then you get more money, you go up in the world, and therefore you can afford to buy the same or even better than them. So that concept of motivation and admiration is admirable in the American psyche, and I think it's absolutely wonderful that they have this attitude. I don't actually believe that everybody does have that opportunity in America, and I wish they did have it, because they deserve it, because they're an incredibly hardworking race. And I say race, I know that it's a very, very, very mixed bag, but as a national attitude, they're very, very hardworking, some of them, and they deserve to be able to get success, and some of them it's very difficult. So, but anyway, that attitude where their jealousy is positive, and just a small personal story about that, just in case anybody might ever be interested in any one of my 1,406 million anecdotes, is that when I was about 28, which is 40 years ago now, I went up for a week to a spiritual community in Scotland that is called Fintorn. That still exists, although now it's in dire problems after the COVID and other problems. So if ever you want to help and support a spiritual community anywhere in the world, I would very much suggest you contact Fintorn, ask them how you can help, because they need a bit of help at the moment, and it'd be really nice that they continue and they are reborn like the phoenix from the ashes of where they are at the moment. So anyway, so the time I went up, they were full speed. Everything was doing incredibly well. And I went up to do something called Experience Week. And I shared a room with two other guys. And one of the guys, his job was he did computer backups. Now, computer backup nowadays is you contact someone on the cloud, and you just back up your computer on the cloud. And before that, or with that, you've also got the possibility to back up on a key. And before that, you would back up on a CD, a compact disc. That was it. But before that, I'm talking about 40 years ago. I know I'm ancient and all that. I'm not okay, but I am. And he would back up on tape. Huge spools of magnetic tape, and every night you would have to put the tape on, and the data would be copied onto this tape, and he'd work all night, and it was slightly technical as a job, and he got very well paid for it because it was slightly technical. It was all night, and he would never stop telling everybody, specifically me, and talking to his friend, how wonderful it was and how much money he got and how he had all these wonderful things he was doing and buying because he had this money. And I, who was already quite 10 years, if not older than him, and had done a small computing course. It's called the Citizen Guild. It was about 6-week course, so I understood the concepts of computing, technical concepts, and then I had taught myself, for my partner at the time, the program of Visual Basic. Visual Basic I taught myself later. And and I thought, I'm more intelligent than him, I'm more capable than him, and he's got this, quotes, wonderful job. And I was jealous. And it irritated the hell out of me that he could have all this money and be so proud of himself. So when I went back, and I was living in Birkenhead near Liverpool, England at the time, I went and found myself an agency, a computer agency at the time. I knocked on the door and I said, I want a job. Now, before, I would never dream of doing anything like that. I had no practical experience. I was self-taught in BASIC. The other program, I don't even know it was, Fortran or something like that. It was only the basics. So I really had no competence, but I was so fired up. It gave me the energy to go and ask. And I said, I want a job and I can program in BASIC. Like, stupid. And by miracle, the people said, oh, we've got a job for you, BASIC. It'll be 2, 3, 4 months, but if you want to do that, it was at an aluminium factory. And there was a great guy there that was the computer programmer who did a whole suite that was doing for his industry. And I spent quite a few months with him, and it really helped me learn better the program, and it was great. But the motivation to do that, the energy to do that got over my fear, which was reasonable, was I was angry. I was angry and I was jealous. But that jealousy motivated me to go beyond my fear and to do something useful. So jealousy can be useful like that. Now, the other thing is the concept of the fear of loss. And yes, people are jealous because they fear they will lose something. But if you can be confident in yourself, confident in what you've got, confident in your job, because people come in their jobs, other people come and they come into their industry and they think, oh, this person's trying to steal my job, and they want to try and attack the other person or bring them down or criticize them. And they don't think that maybe the best way is to do their job better. And I'm not saying that there aren't some people that are very shifty, that make friends and do things, but I mean, basically, if you're good at your job and you do it well, then you should be safe in your position. The same thing with relationships. So I'll tell you a story about relationships, and this time it's not about me. I don't think it is anyway. And I once had a patient, 2 patients that were English from England. living in Switzerland, and the guy had a factory or a business in France, and this was just around the COVID time. So he was in huge dire straits. He really was having problems keeping his business open. And to do that, he was very often at this place of business in France. So it was a few years ago. So teletravail, working. I know it's COVID. There was that, but he really needed to be at his place of work and to deal with things. And his wife felt abandoned. And they came to me for couple counseling because he said he don't know what to do. She was becoming more and more depressed, more and more irritable, more and more angry. And when he spoke about what they had to do and they needed to be there or else they would go bankrupt, they would have no business, she totally understood. She said, I totally understand why you can't be here, but it doesn't stop me feeling unloved, uncared for, unattractive, and sad. And after a certain amount of time talking and reflecting, he turned around to her and said, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to give you permission to go and have a boyfriend? And she said, don't be stupid. And then I said, is it stupid? Because I always say stupid things. I said, is it stupid? And then they both looked at me and they said, what do you mean, Mr. Gedall? I said, well, I don't know. Maybe if you had a male friend that sort of like you could go and have a friendship with, then maybe you would feel less bad. And then she looked at her husband and said, well, how do you feel about it? And he says, look, I want what's best for you. I cannot be there. And if you have a boyfriend, then, so be it. Since she looked at him and says, well, what about Bob? Now, Bob was the thorn in the guy's side because Bob was her boyfriend before they were together and before they were married. So he was like the eternal bachelor, constantly trying to seduce her and do things for years and years. So he was totally available. And so anyway, she turned to him and said, what about Bob? And he said, look, if going with Bob and spending your time with Bob makes you feel better, makes you feel more attractive, makes you less depressed, then I'm all for it. I just don't want to know anything about it. Do what you want with him. Leave me out of it. Do what you need. And so this started to go into place, and then I saw him a few weeks later. He said, "Mr. Gedall, I'm in trouble." I said, "Are you starting to feel jealous?" He said, "Actually, I don't feel jealous. It's just don't know how to deal with Bob, because Bob comes up smiling at me like he's got the cat that's got the cream, and I feel uncomfortable. Don't know what to say." I say, "Well, are you really not jealous?" He says, "No, I'm not jealous. I know my wife loves me. Every time I come back, she says, I missed you, and she looks after me, and we have a good time together. And she expresses a huge sadness when I leave, but I know that quite soon she'll go out with Bob again. But it's not a problem for me." You see, this is where it's so important that jealousy is based on the fear of loss, because he did not fear that he would lose his wife. He did not fear it at all. He's totally convinced that he was the better person. That's why she was with him in the first place. And whatever Bob has to offer, and being seducing and suave and all those things, it's not really what she's after. It's not unpleasant. It's like going and have an ice cream. But you can't eat ice cream all the time. You really need to have like proper food. So I said, "What can I do?" I said, "Well, go to Bob and smile at him and say, thank you for looking after my wife while I'm away, because at least she's not alone. And I'll take her back when I'm available." He says, "Can I say that?" I says, "I don't know. Tell me, can you say that?" He says, "Yes, I can." He came back 3 weeks later, had smile like this. He said, "Bobby avoids me. He can't cope with me." It's great. No fear of loss. So that's another aspect, because if somebody has something and you feel angry with them and you feel upset about them, then there is the possibility that either they have taken something of yours, or you're scared they'll take something of yours, or they've got something that you don't feel that you can acquire. And that gives us room to think about what's happening. And then we start to get to the point that if we're not conscious of why we're angry with this other person, and that gives us a whole space of reflection. What is it within them, what they're doing, how they function, how they are, that irritates me or upsets me? And that's often because there's something in me that I cannot express, I cannot get access to, that they are expressing or that they're having. And I've seen this in many cases, some of my own situations. But I had a patient that came from Italy. She was born in Switzerland, but the parents were Italian, and they come from the north of Italy, where they lived in abject poverty for generations. I mean, generations. They were poor beyond poor. And she was born in Switzerland, so she didn't actually live that poverty, but she felt it. She'd experienced it through her parents and through her grandparents and through the rest of the family when she would go back to Italy. And she became incredibly mean, but mean beyond mean, because this fear of lack, of not having enough, was so ingrained in her. And because it wasn't her experience, but the experience that she's picked on other people, she didn't really have access to it. And if I said, do you feel that maybe you should spend a bit more money and a bit more on yourself, or do this? She said, oh no, I can't. Maybe I'll be sacked next week. Who knows? We go, sacked next week doesn't happen on Switzerland. But the people do get sacked, or I might get sick, or something happen. And she had all these incredibly irrational fears about not having enough. And the obvious way that it was expressed was her huge anger against a colleague. And this colleague did the most awful, awful things that my patient just could not stand, that she could not wish to hear what this woman was doing, this horrible, horrible woman, because this horrible woman had the most awful type of behavior. She was generous. She gave of herself. She gave things to people. She would help with charity. And my patient would say, she's being tricked. She's being conned. She's an idiot. She was just angry about this woman. Why? Because this woman was able to express something that she was not able to express in herself. And I've experienced that myself on, strangely enough, several occasions, because I do have faults and weaknesses. I am a human being. I'm not a superhuman, though sometimes I like to express that as if I am. I'm not. And one of the things that I'm not good at is selling myself. Actually, there are three things, I think, if we look at it. Selling myself. And there was one moment I was working in a hotel. I was waiting for someone, so I went into the bar to wait for them to have a Coca-Cola. And next to me was this guy, and he was talking to these women. There were like 2-3 women around him. I don't know how many. And he was telling them all about how he was the best salesman, and the best salesman here, and then the best salesman in that business, and the best salesman in the other. And I started to get very, very angry with him. And then I started to think that this guy is fake. He's just totally fake. Because the truth of the matter is, if we went from one business to another business, he should be a good story. It could be, I was headhunted by this business, or I went to this customer and he said, look, I'll give you this if you come work for me. They didn't exist. It was just like one business, another business, another business. And the fact that he was able to convince these people how great he was irritated me, because I'm not very good at that. I'm not very good at selling myself in general. I can talk on the internet, I can talk on stage, but one-to-one, I'm less comfortable. Another situation that was vaguely similar, I was at a shamanic weekend, and there were people from different shamanic courses that had come together. And one of the guys was very tall, very elegant. I don't know if he was gay or not, but he had those sort of mannerisms like that. And he would sort of get up and talk like those all the time. It wasn't all the time, but it seemed like all the time. And he kept taking space and taking attention. And people seemed to like him and accept the fact that he took all this space and attention. And again, it irritated the hell out of me, because there was something in that ease of talking to people and getting people to want to listen to what they say, which I'm actually not very good at. I know that might seem strange, but it's a part of, I'm actually a little bit shy underneath everything else. So again, I was irritated, and I did say, what can I do about my irritation with this person? And so at the end of the day, the only thing I could think to do was to befriend him. And it was a bit odd, because he knew I didn't like him. He knew I was irritated. And he says, like, what do you want? I said, look, I find there's things about you that I find difficult to cope with, and I think the best thing for me to do is to make friends with you. And he didn't believe me. He thought maybe I was trying to trick him into something. But eventually he accepted, and we sort of had some sort of positive relationship. But it wasn't very obvious. And the third thing is this, and it's all linked to this. Being the person that takes space and speaks, is being the chef, being the boss. And I am the boss of my little enterprise. I have 4 psychologists that work for me, and I inherited them because the rules changed, and all of a sudden the only people that could employ psychologists, psychotherapists in training was a psychotherapist. And because I'm a psychotherapist and I've been a psychotherapist for like 20 years, it became obvious that I was there and I would do that, and I would actually take the risk of becoming an employee and looking after them. And as far as all the organization administration is concerned, it's absolutely no problem. I do that. But just being the boss, there's just something that doesn't quite work for me. And the psychiatrist that was the boss and has an attitude of being the boss irritates the hell out of me, because he's always there. He always takes all this space. When he talks, he takes hours and talks about things, and I want to talk and I don't get any space, so I'm irritated by it. But what I've realized is that I'm not very comfortable in that role. So you also be careful when you're jealous of something or someone, then just stop and take a moment to have a look and see if it's really who or what you want to be. Because if someone has something, and you say, okay, this person's got this job, or this person's got this house, or this person, one of the things that's the most obvious is that when you see somebody going out with this beautiful, attractive model type woman, or this handsome guy, or whatever, rich, handsome guy even, and you think, oh my God, how lucky he is to have this beautiful girl that he's going out with. Everybody wants her. She's drop dead gorgeous, and she's wonderful, and she's the most attractive, sexy woman I've ever seen. Or how lucky she is to be with him, and he's got all this money and all this power, and he controls everything, and he directs everything like that. And it's like, okay, the fantasy's there. It would be nice to be with the most beautiful woman in the world. It would be nice to be one of the richest, most powerful men in the world. Also, it could be a rich, powerful woman. It could be an attractive guy. Let me not be too sexist about this. But when you actually put yourself in their place and say, if I was with this woman that spent so much attention on herself, because you don't look like that without spending hours and hours in the gym, careful what you eat, before you go out, you might spend a lot of money on clothes, a lot of money on makeup, a lot of money on your hair and your nails, and then all the time just to prepare yourself to go out. It's like what you've got. I mean, they talk about trophy wives. It's really just like a trophy, because as a person, maybe it's just awful, but they need to focus on themselves. I remember that I did a modeling course a long time in the past, and there were a couple of guys in this modeling course that were just so focused on themselves. And they said, well, I have to be focused on myself because I am the product I'm selling. And if I'm not perfect, then I can't sell myself. And who wants to be with somebody like that? That it might be nice to go out with, and to everybody to appreciate you for that. And if it's like the top businesswoman or the top businessman, and maybe they're just very, very controlling and very difficult to be with. And the fact that they've got lots of money doesn't mean they're going to give you lots of money and things like that. So there was all this idea that, you project yourself, you want this, you want what the other one has. And then at the end of the day, maybe it's not right for you. I had a patient once that was, I think it was a woodworker or something like that. It's a manual. And we're talking about many, many things. And he said, oh, I'm going to go on holiday, and I think we're going to go camping. And I said, well, that's very nice. He said, yeah, but sometimes I think I'd like to have a more expensive holiday, but camping's fine for us, for the family. And we'll sort of save the money. Maybe we could do it for other things. And but, to go on a holiday and spend a few thousand francs on a holiday, it's just like, it's not reasonable, and I just can't afford it. And then he said, but I was offered a management role the other month, but he never told me. And I said, what? He said, yes, I was offered the role of manager of this woodwork place that I work, and I'd be administrator and stuff like that. I said, well, you didn't tell me about that. I said, yes, because I refused it straight away. I said, oh, why did you refuse it straight away? He says, because I don't want it. Says, I don't want the stress. I don't want the strain. I don't want to spend my life doing administration. I like working with wood. And I spoke to my wife about it. I even spoke to my kids about it. I said, look, Daddy could have another job. He will be away more often because the administrative job, it's managerial, so you could be called in at weekends, and you could even be called while you're on holiday and things like that if there's a problem. And so I didn't want to be available 24/7. Even if it was more money and a better status, says it just wasn't worth it. And that is somebody that's in harmony with themselves. That's someone that is not jealous of someone else getting a role or a position that he might want because he knows he doesn't want it. And there are many people that I've seen in life that have desired better positions, better roles, have been jealous of people that have got these jobs. And then they've succeeded by some way or other to get themselves into that job that they have desired for so long. And they're unhappy as a stone. I don't know if that exists in English. I think it's a French phrase that I've just translated. But they're unhappy as anything because they realize that although it's what they thought they wanted, that they were jealous of, when it came down to it, it's not really the quality of life that they want. And that is something that's incredibly important, that when you see something or someone that you think, oh, I want that, or it's not fair that they've got this, it's not fair that, take a step back and think, is it reasonable, first of all, for you to have that job? Have you done all that's necessary? Have you invested enough? Do you want to invest so much? And then if you had got that job, is it really something that you would want? Is it something really that would be good for you? Is it the relationship that you'd want? You see this very attractive person, whatever way they're attractive, and you say, I'd like to be with that person. And then maybe, I mean, that's where all these first dates sort of really all fall to pieces, because the person sort of, they see someone on a dating site or on Facebook or somewhere else, and they look attractive, and then they exchange with them a few words and things like that, and they desire them. And if somebody else has a relationship with them, they'll be jealous. But if they succeed to actually have a physical date with them, often it's just awful, because they get what they desire, and they realize it's not at all what they want. And fortunately, sometimes you don't have to invest too much to get these relationships started, and you can see quite quickly that they're not going to function. So if you have a strong reaction about someone or what they're doing, who they are, or what they've got, then go into yourself, because it's a mirror. It helps you see who you are, not a question who they are. There are people that are very attracted to people that express things within themselves that they don't express. A lot of couples are based on that. But there's also a lot of people that are very upset, angry, frustrated by people that they are projecting something negative out from themselves. And very, very often we are jealous of the people that express things we can't express ourselves and we can't do ourselves. And that is something we need to be careful of, because to be jealous that someone has or expresses something that we don't, or we're not comfortable with, then maybe we shouldn't be having it or doing it. Maybe that's not right for us. Maybe we need to take another path. Maybe we need to try otherwise. For myself, I keep away from social situations. I don't like social situations. I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very competent with my patients. I know exactly what to say, and well, most of the time anyway, I do make mistakes. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I really upset my patients. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. But social situations don't work for me. I keep away from them. I'm good on, I hope, on YouTube. I used to be very good on the stage, so I was told, and I'm finding therapy. So that's my places. The fact that I'm not very good at selling myself in social situations, yes, I'm jealous of others that do it, but now I've given up on it. It doesn't matter. It's not important for me. It's not who I am. And at the end of the day, it doesn't bring me anything, because at the end of the day, I don't need that type of support. I don't need that type of appreciation. I need appreciation for who I really am and what I do, not for what I can sell, not for the image that I can give. And I think that's maybe why I can't do it, because I'm not interested in it. And when you're jealous of someone or something, ask yourself, is that really who you want to be? Is that really what you want to do in life? Is that something that brings you pleasure? Does that fulfill you as a human being? And the chances are the answer is no. I had a patient that told me he just bought for himself and his wife a brand new SUV for I think 80 or 85,000 francs, which is like $85,000, or approximately the same thing in euros. So it's about that. It was a huge, big object, and I think I saw it once on the street, and I thought, I wouldn't want that. That's not my thing, and I wasn't jealous of it because it's not what I wanted. There's people that buy. I mean, I had a story on the internet of someone that bought this huge, huge house, this huge mansion, and at the end of the day, he had to sell it because he couldn't afford to keep it, couldn't afford to have it. There was no point to have it. He was jealous of other people that had these beautiful houses. He made a lot of money, So he built himself this massive mansion with, I don't know, 50, 100 rooms. And then it was no point to him. It was like it destroyed him. So, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you're jealous of. So anyway, that's me for today. It's Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday, so I'm off. If all goes well, I will be on YouTube on Saturday. It might be one of the last times because it's the next week is the last week of the 70-day challenge, and a lot of things have come up that I'm going to have to do, going places I have to go as well. So I might not be able to do any YouTube at all next week. So this might be the end of the YouTube live for this series. I'll start again in September with the new 70-day challenge. If you find this interesting or useful, please share. You can still join my channel because I will be producing stuff all the time. I'll more than likely be taking all these live broadcasts and re-editing them and making them a bit more active and more, I don't know, amusing or interesting. So anyway, we'll see that. So maybe I'll see you on Saturday, and otherwise keep well and all the best, and maybe I'll see you again soon.